So just take a couple of nice deep breaths. Let your energy come down from your thoughts and your mind deeper and deeper into your body, and see if you can feel that breath coming into your heart center. And breathe a little more deeply. Just inhaling and exhaling from your heart, as if you had a nose there that was doing the breathing for you. And when you inhale peace. And as you exhale, let it be love. So that the coming and going of your breath is a resonance of peace and love. So that you are sitting in a cocoon of peace. And you are sending out a wave of love. And that wave is not confined to this room. That wave is generated from each one of you. And together, multiplied, so that when it leaves this room, it has a force. It has a soft power to penetrate the minds and hearts of others who are listening and waiting, and feel that wave of love coming from you, generated by you, created by you this day, by your saying yes to being here. And take another breath. And let your heart say yes to living in that love with each breath. That breath that goes in front of you as you take a step. That breath and that love that meets another face to face and says, yes, this is the love that there is between us, that can be here, that can be a part of who we are right now, every day on this planet.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. The message this evening is still another chapter of the evolution of the human being. I have said some of the things before that I'm going to tell you now. And yet I've never done it in this fashion. I've never numbered them in this way. And I've never spoken of them quite as frankly as I will now. Dear ones, I would not be here channeling from the man in the chair if the shift had not happened. In other words, the shift happened and I'm here. And I am here in guidance, in reminders to who you are, what you can be, what is actually taking place here on this planet, an overview, perhaps, of where it's going. This morning, I talked about a dysfunction that is part of a human nature that has always been with you. The dysfunction is that you measure the future by what has happened in the past, even though the energy of the future is completely different. I would like to expand on that with the other dysfunctions that will be turned around. We speak a lot about paradigm shift. Paradigm, the way things work, a plan of the way things work, ideas and the way they circulate, paradigm, reality. There are 3 paradigms on this planet that will change. These 3 are the ones that are magnificent, because each one will change the planet dramatically. 3 of them. You've heard me talk about these separately, but not in one channel. I'm not going to elaborate, I'm just going to state them. And talk perhaps about a little that I've talked about before, but you need to hear it again. Let us speak of the first paradigm. The paradigm of the relationship between the human being and what you call God, the creative source. I would like you to look at for a moment the history of this paradigm, for it has moved and changed through the eons of time, from one thing to another. And it's dramatic how it's changed the planet. But even as I remind you of what has happened or where it's going, I want you to take a look, because there's a missing piece. If you look at the human being's perception of God, when you start going back in history, it starts at an odd place. And the place meaning the attribute of the relationship. It starts with many gods. So you might say number 1 is the human relationship with the Creator is assuming and seeing many gods. There's something wrong with that. There should have been something in front of it that you haven't found and that didn't exist. So let's talk about that for a moment. If you want to take a look at the progression of a relationship, it would start off with the human not realizing there are any gods. And that is not what you see. So it starts right off with humans understanding there is a creative source of some kind, perhaps many of them, but it's actually self-evident. The human shows up after the creation story, Adam and Eve, if you wish. Whatever the creation story, the human shows up and immediately God is considered. How many? How does it work? There's never a time when there's no God. Isn't that interesting? I want you to ponder that for a moment, because it doesn't make sense unless there is something you're not considering in the evolution of the relationship. And that is this, that you came in with God inside. Therefore, the quandary is, how does it work? Not, does it exist? The first stage was many gods. The second stage was one God. That is where you are today. There are literally 5 stages. I'll give you a couple more of where it's going. You've gone from many gods to an assumption, an understanding, a perception of one God. And to this day, the one God is what the planet sees. But the dysfunction, of course, is how does the one God relate to you? What are you supposed to do to relate to the one God? That's the dysfunction. When you can have one person say, my God is filled with love. You believe the same thing, but if you don't believe it in the correct way, I'll kill you. That is dysfunction. So what is the logical next step? And that would be the allowance of compassion and unity to worship the way you wish, where each one would see perhaps their own profit, but would give allowance to another and say there is one source of love, and it manifests itself in many ways. and it is common on the planet, and there is nothing wrong with the way you do what you do. I prefer this one. And I give you allowance and see God in you for yours. That then evolves later to something even more spectacular. A new paradigm, totally and completely new, and that would be this. The change from God is out there to God is in here. That is in the future, and it's not in your lifetime. But that is in the future. That is the natural evolution of a human being in a group that is evolving. It comes over time. It doesn't erase religion. It doesn't erase belief systems. It profoundly changes them in a way that is so beautiful. Dear ones, church is not going away. Church is going to be revolutionized. Church is going to look so much different. There is no angel that's going to come down and wipe away what you have. What's going to happen is human beings are going to have a realization, an awareness that God is bigger than they ever thought, and have an allowance for that, and start to see the enormity of God within. And all of the masters who walk this planet have said it. God is inside you. You were made in the image of God, and the image is not what you look like in the mirror. The image is love. And that will be seen someday. That's the evolution. That's the paradigm shift. That's number one. Where are you in that shift right now? And the answer is you're very low on the totem pole. Because you just started. You just started. We have said this before. The shift is only a few years old, and yet things are beginning. Have you heard any world religious leaders stand up and ask for forgiveness of another? Or for an entire group to have forgiveness of another? Or the way you've treated those in the past? This is new. It's beginning of an allowance of one group to another to finally say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. My prophet and your prophet, they know each other through love. They know each other, and they're culturally different, and that's it. The commonality will be the core, and that's love. I hope it blesses your heart to know that that is the evolution that comes on this planet with the shift. That's what the field is starting to put together. More and more human beings are starting to look at those that are different and saying, well, they're not that different. They're just culturally different. Look, the core is the same. Look. What a revolution. What a revelation is coming. That's number one. Number two, we have talked about infinitum. Science. You are so proud of your science, and it's such a closed box. The science is spectacular, you'll say, on this planet. The scientific method is gold, and that's what you use, and that's what creates the discoveries. I'm telling you, you're in a circle. You're in a circle of old thoughts, old discoveries, and there's no new thinking. Not really. Not in the universities, not yet. Dear human beings, science is like cooking a meal with a world-class chef. 3 steps. The chef envisions the meal. Here is what I'm going to put together to make this meal beautiful. And in the mind of the chef are the ingredients. Now, when you take a look at science, this is that which the scientist says, here is what I think might be happening. I'd like to experiment. I have an idea about a new law of physics. I'd like to experiment. I'd like to take a discovery and develop it. What is happening? Stage 2, the chef cooks the meal. Carefully, expertly. The scientist begins the scientific method, begins the experimentation, makes sure it's fair, makes sure that there's double-blind studies, makes sure that there's integrity in the discoveries, in the experiment, so that others can duplicate it like he or she has. Number 3, the chef delivers the meal and it's eaten and enjoyed. Number 3, for the scientist, the experiments show, indeed, he, she was correct, and the science becomes reality, and people start using it in their everyday life. In this picture, step 1 is broken in science. It's broken because you are revolving in an old energy of what you expect, what you've discovered before, and everything revolves around what you know instead of what you don't know, or what you could know, or what you might know. And so the experiment never works, and the science is never developed. I will give you the classic example, yet again. This is the 3rd time I've given you this in detail, and I want you to hear it. And physicists, if you're listening, I want you to hear it again. Vera Rubin is an astronomer of note who has passed recently. She is a wild card, and no one knows it yet, because what she discovered was revolutionary, would have rewritten the laws of physics if it were seen and acknowledged for what she discovered. She looked upon the galaxy and did a very careful job of documenting the speed of stars around the center of another spiral galaxy just like yours. And what she found, she didn't believe. So she kept quiet about it and studied it more. Over a decade, she came to the conclusion what she discovered was real and accurate and could not be refuted. She presented the discovery to the scientific community, and they validated that what she had discovered was correct. Now here is step 1 of cooking the meal. She discovered that every single star goes around the center of a spiral galaxy at exactly the same speed. Now, when you take a look at the discovery, what makes it astonishing is that it does not follow Newtonian rules of gravity, or Kepler, or any of the others that would show you how mass and gravity works around a center fulcrum. Your solar system is the example of what you know. It's Newtonian. And it says mass goes around the center at a certain speed at a certain distance because of the mass, because of the gravity, because of the fulcrum. And she discovered that the stars don't react that way at all. They're not at all like your solar system. What a discovery. What an amazing thing. What are you going to do with it? And here's what your scientists did with it. They looked at it and they said, this is something we didn't expect. Therefore, we will cram it into the box of Newton. And that box means that because it wasn't moving properly, there has to be invisible energies that are affecting it we know nothing about, and we're going to call it dark matter. We still don't know about it. But it has to be there because Newton is Newton and Kepler is Kepler, and what she discovered doesn't seem to fit Therefore, we will invent another energy. Dear ones, what she discovered was another law of physics. And that will be seen someday. And there will be laughter and embarrassment that you spent so much time trying to fit something new into an old box that you understood. And therefore the experiments never got forward, therefore the science never got done, therefore the new law of physics was never developed, never seen, never understood. It will be. And that is the science paradigm that will change, dear ones, and it's going to change with young people coming into science. And the statement is going to be, we don't know what we don't know. Therefore, anything that is presented to us that is outside the box of what we know, we are going to look at carefully. And that does not exist today. Do you see how that can change the world? Number 3, you. This is so profound. The paradigm of why humans will reject these things that we are giving, we touched on earlier. Dear ones, it's because there is an old sediment of unworthiness that sits on every single human being here. You have spent eons in trouble because you had troubles every single time you turned on your light. How many times do I have to present this? There is no judgment of the reticence today to believe anything you're hearing in this channel, or to believe channeling itself. We've spoken of the closet light worker before, the one that buries themselves and would never come to a meeting like this and yet knows it all. They won't come. And the reason is because they don't want to start an enlightened path again and have the same thing happen as it did before. They don't want to have their life taken like it was before. The old souls that are listening to this channel are courageous ones because they have lived eons of lives where their light was never accepted, where their lives were taken en masse. I want to ask you, are you seeing any of that today? Oh yeah, but not like of old. You're seeing the dark army trying to stamp out your light, dear one. If you are following the master of love, you are in trouble with them. The dark wants to stamp out any lighthouse anywhere on the planet, and it will not be successful. It is not being successful. That is what I speak of, for that is what you experienced over and over on this planet. And when you finally get into an energy like this and the shift, is it any wonder that you don't believe that you're worthy of starting something you've never done before, striking a light in you? It will be so bright, others will come to you and say, I like you. Tell me what you've done for you. I like the balance I see. And it's not going to be about doctrine. And it's not going to be that which is religious or really even spiritual. You'll give them common sense living. Things that make sense, that are balanced in love and compassion and integrity. And they will see it and say, yes, I see it in you. Never understanding. Namaste. The God in me sees the God in you. But there will be a coherence, a confluence, an understanding, one human to another. No matter who they are or what culture they are, you'll like each other. You'll like each other because you see that inside, which is God, and not even know it. That's coming. But what keeps you from that now is the old paradigm of mistrust Akashic awareness of death, spirituality and light equals trouble. How are you going to get through that? That is an old paradigm that old souls all over this planet are dealing with at this moment. And the only answer I can give you is there is an awakening that is taking place where you're going to toss it aside and understand you stand in the light for the first time ever. That there's a wind at your back for the first time ever. There's a field in physics that wants to put things together instead of tear them apart. You stand protected. You stand loved. You stand worthy. And you can walk forward in a light and not ever, ever have to fear the darkness coming after you. Because it's simply going to be in survival. And it'll be in survival for years, dear ones. Sequestered, unhappy, trying to keep things the way they were, and they're never going to go back to the way they were. And so the paradigm shift number 3 is the shift into light of the human being, one by one. Not a group, one by one. You will see it, cognize it, understand it, feel the burdens fall off of you. Understand that health is connected to it, metabolism is connected to it, and the old is not. That is an awareness that will come one by one. There will be those who leave here who will say, I wish I could have it. I wish it was me now. And I'll tell you, it will be. And it will be sooner than you think, and for reasons you don't know. And that's because all of you are known by name, by the creative source, because you are created in the image of God. You are part of the whole, known by God, worthy, and ready to step forward in the shift. That carries weight. In other words, there is something else with you that is very strong, that's going to direct you. It's not just you anymore, dear ones. There is help. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. Don't misunderstand what it is. It hasn't come from the outside. It's come from the inside. And that is the paradigm. Going from an outside source to an inside source for personal power, for peace, for understanding. Who are you? Who is God? Is there a possibility? There's no difference. All of this is coming. Little by little, stage by stage, and you will see it someday. You will remember these words. You'll be able to see it happening because there'll be reports of these things which sound a lot like this channel. Do not despair, dear ones, that it's not coming soon enough. Understand that these things take time. Just as we said this morning, maturity of any human spirit takes a while. There's learning. There's an aha. There's graduation. These are the things that I will continue to report to you. As I see humanity starting to raise itself slowly, as was predicted, in a shift that the ancients knew was coming, without doom, without destruction, without some of the things you continue to hear today from those who don't believe that you're worthy. Enough for now. And so it is.